now here's reporter Lucia Nicastro reporting live from Estonia on the Ukraine-Russia issue.
Hello, this is Luciana Castro reporting on the recent events concerning the Russia and Ukraine issue. On March 3rd, 7 Russian attack planes took off from Novofedorovka Air Base in Crimea. They flew out over the Black Sea, right towards 2 North Atlantic Treaty Organization warships, the U.S. guided missile cruiser Vicksburg and the Turkish frigate Tugu Trace. Russia's state-owned media described the mission as a reconnaissance exercise, but Russian interactions with NATO vessels as reconnaissance exercises have tripled this past year. But is Russia's Air Force actually a threat? The Russian Air Force is still formidable, to be sure, due to the fact that it's the world's second largest in terms of combat aircraft and it has roughly 2,500 warplanes, but recent events have shown that it may not be as much of a threat as it seems. First of all, with a few exceptions, its aerial fleet dates back to the Cold War and is just getting older. Secondly, factories producing aircraft and parts have shut down or become part of foreign, mostly Ukrainian, territory. Engineers experienced in building jets have either immigrated or retired. Finally, Moscow wants 60 operational new planes called T-50s by 2020, which is an optimistic assumption. 60 deadly stealth fighters might sound like a lot, but the US plans to build 2,400 F-35s during the next 2 decades and has already started delivering them now. That's on top of the US Air Force's 187 operational F-22s already in service, which means that Russia's most advanced planes will just be heavily outnumbered, and meanwhile, the rest of Kremlin's fleet will just keep getting older. Now, on to reporter Betsy Burt.
All right, and now here's Betsy Burt with the latest news from Bulgaria. I'm Betsy Burt reporting to you live from the Novo Selo training range in southeastern Bulgaria. The United States will hold a series of military drills with the NATO ally Bulgaria over the next 3.5 months. About 350 United States Army officers will go to Bulgaria to take part in bilateral drills here at the Novo Selo training range. The Bulgarian Army will use these drills to test their abilities to react to crises situations. Defense Minister Nikolay Nenchev says that the United States will spend about $30 million to help with the infrastructure at the Novo Selo training range. Along with that, Bulgaria and other NATO Black Sea members joined the United States, Canada, Germany, and Italy in a multi-naval exercise at the Black Sea. Well, that's all for now. I'm Betsy Burt reporting to you live from Bulgaria. All right, now here's Elizabeth Owen with the latest news from Paris, France.
Hello, it's Elizabeth coming at you live from Paris. On January 7th, 2015, Islamic extremists attacked the office building of the Charlie Hebdo, a Parisian satirical newspaper that had criticized Islam. The attack killed 12 people, and the attacks showed that religious extremists were being homegrown in Paris, given that the two suspects, Saeed and Sharif Kouachi, were both born in Paris. In response to these attacks, the phrase Je suis Charlie, or I am Charlie, swept social media in protest. People all over Europe, as well as the United States, went out in public with signs bearing the slogan and French flags to honor those who had been lost. Islamic terror attacks are a very prevalent aspect of our world today and are especially of great concern in Europe and the Middle East. It's not to say that this attack has any ties to ISIS, but issues involving extremist groups are absolutely on the rise, not only in Europe, but all around the world. Back to you, Will.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Anti-Semitism in Europe has increased dramatically in the last year, especially since the most recent Gaza conflict and the rise of ISIS in Syria and Iraq. There have been widespread attacks on Jews in Europe, particularly in France. For example, just since the beginning of 2015, the following incidents have occurred. 1. In France alone, 5 males aged 15 to 17 desecrated 300 Jewish graves in eastern France. The 5 minors currently in custody are from the region of Sarre-Union in Alsace, where the desecration took place. 4 Jewish men were among 17 victims of the Paris terror attacks. They were shot by a Muslim at a Jewish supermarket. 13 people had been killed by 2 Islamic brothers who broke into Charlie Hebdo magazine offices in Paris. A policewoman was also murdered a short distance from a Jewish school. 2 16-year-old Jewish boys wearing visibly Jewish clothing were punched by 2 young men while walking home from a synagogue. The attackers said, "Dirty Jews, we're going to exterminate you all." The word Jew was painted on 26 cars in a neighborhood with a sizable Jewish population. A 13-year-old boy wearing a visibly Jewish clothing was tear-gassed on the street by 3 girls. An unidentified man smashed a window at his Jewish library and shouted, "We'll get all of you Jews," before mounting a scooter that was being driven by somebody else. 2. In Germany, an Israeli citizen was beaten by a group of young men after he asked them to stop singing anti-Semitic songs on the subway. The victim, who lives in Berlin, asked the 7 men to stop chanting anti-Jewish and anti-Israeli songs and slurs. He recorded them on his cell phone. When he got off at the next subway stop, the men followed him and demanded he delete the video. When he refused, some of the men spat on him and beat and kicked him, injuring his head. 3. In Hungary, about 20 graves in a Jewish cemetery were vandalized. The human remains were scattered across the area. 4. In Italy, the slogan, "Jews to the gas," and swastikas were painted on a community center in a small town in Tuscany. 5. In Poland, the fence of the Jewish cemetery in Warsaw was defaced with spray paint reading, "Jews for slaughter," and the date 10/12/14, a reference to the date when Poland's constitutional tribunal ruled that the ban on ritual slaughter was unconstitutional. 6. In Austria, a man wearing a Star of David necklace was attacked at a shopping mall by a group of young men who yelled, "Effing Jew," and then began to beat him with their fists and feet. 7. Again in Austria, 2 Jewish men were assaulted by 4 men who were shouting anti-Semitic slogans. 8. In Denmark, a gunman opened fire at a free speech forum in Copenhagen, killing 1 man before shooting several people outside a synagogue and killing another. The gunman was killed in a shootout with the police. In response to this rising anti-Semitism, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu invited all Jews to come to Israel. He said, "We are preparing and calling for the absorption of mass immigration from Europe. To the Jews of Europe and to the Jews of the world, I say that Israel is waiting for you with open arms." Thanks, and we'll see you next time.